Nick. Hey. Anh ngồi chi Nick. Anh ngồi chi Nick. Si sama taslimat. Anh ngồi chi taslimat. Anh ngồi chi. Sujud cinta. Oh. Rồi chú.
Welcome to modern Greenland kayaking. I wouldn't recommend trying that maneuver at home. Even with 5 of your friends pulling, it's possible to get hurt or damage your gear. Making a living hunting by kayak was a dangerous occupation. Nowadays we use kayaks mainly for recreation, usually with a paddle that looks something like this, or perhaps like this. But originally, kayak paddles looked more like this. That's not because it's hard to carve wood into a wider curved blade, but because centuries of development and refinement in a sea kayak environment perfected this paddle design and the techniques to go with it. Fortunately, those techniques haven't been lost.
My mother's father was fisherman and hunter with a kayak in 1920s.
My uncle, he big hunter anyway, he died in hunting.
In the middle of the 50s, the kayak was being changed by engine boats. After a couple of decades, someone started to think this is going to disappear. We have to, while we still can, pass forward to younger people.
There was the awareness that if they didn't do something soon, that whole part of their culture would be lost. And so from that came the Greenland Kayak Club and the beginnings of a national competition and a national training camp.
It was started in the middle of the 80s to protect the cultural heritage of the Greenlandic kayak style and maintain the skills of kayaking with the skin-on-frame kayak.
Well, what gets me excited about kayaking is not specifically areas of dogma, but rather the cross-pollination of ideas, getting ideas from one discipline to another. And there's an extraordinarily huge amount of information that we can still learn from the Greenlanders.
The older generation of kayak hunters, especially one man named Manessa Mateusen, managed to rekindle interest in kayaks among younger Greenlanders before it was too late. If that hadn't happened, we in the U.S. would probably still be guessing at the best way to paddle and roll with a Greenland paddle. And some of the advanced techniques we probably never would have conceived of, let alone figure out how to actually do.
I would say that Greenland totally appeals to me in terms of the style of equipment because of the cost, the simplicity, the lightweight, and then ultimately in paddling, if you're going to do any long distance, I really like the fact that you can go a lot further and it seems to me that I can go just as quickly as I can with the European style.
It was easy, it was affordable, it's comfortable for me. Got into the whole rolling thing as just an extension of what it was all about.
Of all the Arctic cultures that use kayaks, the Greenlanders advanced rolling to the highest degree we know of. For them it was a matter of survival. If they capsized and had lost the paddle or got their hands tangled in the harpoon line or broke an arm, they had to get back up without coming out of the kayak. But what a lot of these seal hunters from hundreds of years ago figured out, as many of us have today, is that rolling a kayak is a lot of fun. And the more ways you know how to roll, the more fun you can have.
One of the main advantages of a Greenland paddle is there's never any confusion as to how it's oriented underwater. Whether you're holding just the loom or the blade, there's never any question as to which direction that the blades are facing.
You know, it's in Greenland paddle, it's not always same way, because you might check this way, even you're blind.
I originally learned how to surf with a Euroblade, and sometimes after being Maytagged in the surf, I'd actually have to reach forward to feel where the feathered blade was facing. With practice, you can mitigate that, but in use, the Greenland paddle, it's never an issue, because to roll with these, you're extending the blade, you're holding it in your hand, and it's very easy to tell the orientation of the blade.
It seems like the Greenland style paddle is really for me.
It feels really good too. I just love the feel. Oh man, and an edge sweep. That's like, oh gosh.
Did you know that there was this many people outside of Greenland that were interested in Greenland kayaks?
I was actually surprised that it was more than I have expected.
You can't really talk about traditional kayaking in the U.S. without the name Maligiaq Padilla coming up sooner or later.
Maligiaq Padilla is a young kayaker from Greenland who won the National Kayaking Championship there for several years running. John Heath, a well-known kayak historian, brought Maligiaq to Seattle several years ago, and I had the chance to meet Maligiaq and see him perform. I'd been paddling Greenland kayaks for quite some time by then, but Maligiaq opened my eyes to a lot of the possibilities that I hadn't even considered doing aboard a Greenland kayak.
Esta noche tenemos la inauguración oficial del simposio que tendrá lugar en el puerto de Dubside, en la villa de Dubside, la Casa de la Cultura.
My name is Ander. I come from the Basque Country. I like Greenland paddling. I think it's the most beautiful form of moving over the water. I think it's the more natural way of paddling.
man kaster på selven, så skal man mod hinanden. Det kan være fangeren dyr, eller det kan være selven dyr. Det tager nogle gange rigtig lang tid. Ja, det er hårdt, det er ikke nemt. Det er ikke nemt. Man kan break.
Yeah, and people in his family got the back broken from pull from big seals. Several of his family died because of that.
This is called that means playing ropes. It was used for maintain flexibility, condition and muscle mass during winter time when you had no option for paddling or rolling. At the same time, the audience got a lot of entertainment from that.
My name is Hakola Dippel, coming from Germany near Kassel, and I'm starting with Greenland paddling about 1989. And I visited to Greenland at 10 years later, and I like it.
My name is Gitte. I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark, and I'm here in Spain to learning all the Greenlandic techniques.
My name is Christophe Kleis. I am a French guy, and I've been paddling and building Greenland boats and Bailarka for about 10 years. And I have fun of these boats, first because they are things of beauty, and then because they are fun to paddle and roll.
I know many Greenlander didn't know out of Greenland making also kayaker. I know they began more and more all the world making.
My name is Chris Cunningham. In 1989, I was asked to be the editor of Sea Kayaker magazine and shifted a lot of my attention to building sea kayaks. I wrote an article on building a replica of a skin-on-frame Greenland kayak that was very popular, and then followed that up with writing a book on the topic called Greenland Kayak, a manual for its construction and use. The Greenland kayak is a traditional kayak made up of a lot of pieces of wood, lashings and pegs. The design of the Greenland kayak is fairly low to the water, so it doesn't have a lot of windage, and you'll find that these boats are very, very capable in rough conditions. The advantage of building your own kayak, aside from getting to learn a bit about some woodworking and the pride of having your own boat, is that you can get a boat that's custom fit to you. Building your own sea kayak is actually quite economical. If you want to get on the water for a couple of $100, it's a great way to go. The materials run about $60, $70 for lumber, and the skin and the coating might run about $120 on top of that. The project doesn't take an inordinate amount of time. I was teaching classes in different places around the world, and I could get students who had no woodworking experience at all through the entire process in a week, and that's working fairly long days. But if you're working just weekends and evenings, you'd be able to finish up in a month and a half without too much trouble. It doesn't take a lot of tools to build a Greenland kayak. It's helpful to have a table saw to mill out all the parts. But beyond that, having an electric drill, a couple of planes, and a few files will get you through most of the process. When I first started looking into instructions for building Greenland kayaks, I read a book by Jussi Petersen of Greenland, and it was documentation of how the Greenlanders built boats. And when they came to discussing how the ribs were bent, the builders were very silent on that. There were a lot of trade secrets on that. So that's a step in the process that still has a bit of mystery for a lot of people. Steam bending is really a lot of fun to do. You get wood wet, put it in a steam box and cook it up until it's at boiling temperature. The wood fibers are then very pliable so that the wood can be bent around a surprisingly tight radius. So you can bend by hand and by eye, which is the way the original Greenlanders did it, but you can also make jigs to make that job a lot easier and a lot faster.
There's a kind of a false presentation and a sense, I guess, that Greenland boats are all built this sort of certain way. And when you get into the drawings, nothing is farther from the truth. You know, things are nailed together, they're lashed together, they're just stuck together. Things happen in so many different exciting ways.
People may think of them as primitive boats, but actually they're quite fast and quite capable of taking on a lot of rough water.
After I had built this boat, I met a lot of people online through the different forums on how to, on building boats, and they all said, hey, you should come to this event that's called STIX, the South Sound Traditional Inuit Kayak Symposium. Okay, what's that?
I'd like to welcome everybody to STIX, the 4th annual STIX, South Sound Traditional Inuit Kayak Symposium.
So on the schedule for the afternoon, of course, rolling demo. We'll see if we use the full hour. And then 2:30 to 4:30 is the next instructional session. And then 4:30 to 5:30 is games and race. So that's what's on tap for the afternoon.
What's happening to my wall?
And as I said, there's a trick. If you want to practice it and you don't make it the first time, you just switch it to the other hand and it will pull you up.
You look at my wall.
It was, you know, an all-Greenland event, and kind of our first introduction to Greenland paddles, our first introduction to skin-on-frame boats. And we went there with the two of us and our daughter, and just kind of really, something about it really hit us. I think part of it is the crowd was a really kind of interesting mix of people. I mean, I kind of like the whole do-it-yourself kind of ethic of building, and just a real fun atmosphere, and we've been involved with it since. I've been an instructor with sticks since 2004. We've been symposiums kind of now all over the country, and paddling all over the world now.
Now I'll hold the plane at a shallow angle, cut to this line, right here. So I'm watching that line. I'm cutting to it. The closer you get to the line, the smaller mistakes you want to make. So rough cut it, and then set it to a fine cut, and then clean it up. This is about 1/8 of an inch, and that's about 1/4 of an inch. Now, if you make this thinner, then when you grip it for rolling, it'll hurt, it'll cut you. Right? If you make it thicker, it's a real comfortable grip for rolling, but for paddling, you don't get the power and the bite out of it.
And I really like the economy of the Greenland style, having had a husband who built a cedar strip which took 300 hours. When he decided, I'm going to build a skin-on frame, and by comparison it was 30 to 40 hours, and even less for children's boats. To me that was really appealing because it was less time away from the family. And it even got better because our daughter got involved with building the kayaks.
What's really exciting is, you know, the group that we originally started in with were all around our age, some a little older, some a little younger, but not a real broad band. But through that, almost everybody had kids, some of them very, very young, up through kind of teens.
My dad showed us the ropes after he went to a kayak symposium on the Hood Canal, and he brought them back and we set them up, and we caught on really fast, and it's really, really fun.
A lot of these kids coming in with, you know, greater flexibility, less fear, you know, greater strength to weight ratios. They're able to pull things off so much faster and with so much more finesse that the bar of what's achievable is just being pushed, you know, completely off the charts now. And it's really pretty exciting to work with, you know, with our daughter, and like I work with a lot of kids on these techniques, and it's really just exciting to see them grow and them continue to push us farther and farther as you know, as boat builders, or as, you know, paddle makers, or as you know, as instructors, to constantly come up with new ways to keep ahead of them so they learn new skills, whether it's, you know, in the water or off the water, ropes, whatever they are.
I'd just like to give you all a special thanks, because it's a big, it's really an honor to be here, to be invited and see all you, you know, being interested in Greenland kayaking. It's very thrilling.
There are several traditional paddling events like Sticks that have sprung up across North America. They all stem from the largest, longest running, and historically most important event in the U.S., the Delmarva Paddlers Retreat.
If anybody needs a spare paddle, there's borrow loaners over here.
So the rolling rodeo is sort of an inspiration. It's an inspiration to everybody. You'll see different kinds of boats. You'll see different body styles, body shapes, ages. You'll see some pretty exciting stuff, because what the rolling rodeo has done is inspired people to go back the next year and work hard.
Well, Charlie and I had a business. We started the first retreat, Camp Arrowhead. Actually, Charlie went there as a counselor years ago. That's how we knew about the camp, and it was really the ideal spot for it. The first retreat, we had less than 30 people. I know we lost money, but it was very important to us to show people, you know, some safety things, because we felt like we were sending a lot of people out there with very little knowledge. Actually, rolling was a very minimal part of it then. We had a couple guys that knew how to roll, and they would teach it in the pool all day long. We had Alan Anderson from Betsy Bay Kayaks call us, and he kept telling us we should try one of his boats, He said, when you get in this, you'll never go back. And he was right, we never went back. And then the more we got into that style, the more we, you know, it was just so much better.
Look at some of these rolls we're doing and get inspired, if nothing else, just to learn to roll.
Each year it got bigger and more well-known. We met John Heath then.
And in the old days, they used the kayak as a hunting craft. It evolved as a hunting craft, not primarily for transportation, although it's used for transportation.
He actually showed us how Greenlanders would teach the rolling, which actually made a huge difference, because we could get people in a boat and they would start rolling the same day. First of all, it was a Greenland paddle, and we took it backwards. Like we'd stand in the water with them. You'd start with a sculling. And once they could get themselves up from sculling, then we would dip them a little further and a little further till they were doing a one-sided roll. It's really sharing. Mm-hmm. You know, people were helping other people. It was just a very nice atmosphere. John became a very, very close friend. He was very special. He taught us a lot.
He was very good at coming to the retreat and explaining things exactly as he saw them and understood them in Greenland, and also imparting to us the importance of the cultural aspect of it. Not just this was a phase that we were going through, but he wanted it to be understood how important every aspect of it was, that we not only have a tradition, but we also have the culture going along with it, and that was very important to continue to carry through that meaning.
I think the retreat was very special to us, and we knew that it was a good thing. I mean, people were loving it, and we were ready to pass it on, but we didn't want to stop it.
So you did 8, and then at your 8th year, we were at the pool, and you said, do you want to take it over? And I didn't skip a beat, because the first thing that I thought of was, I can't imagine there not being a retreat. It was just something that I looked forward to so much, and it meant so much to me to have this. But I know the first 2 years, I think I checked with you every step. Yeah. And then about the 3rd year, you were just kind of like, Robin, you got it.
Robin Snow, if she could please stand up right now, is here with us tonight. Just an outstanding person who ran this event for 8 years, right? 8 years.
So while you had the Greenlanders running their national kayak championships starting in 1985, interest in the U.S. in traditional skills was picking up during the 1990s. But there wasn't a whole lot of interaction between what the Greenlanders were doing and what was happening in this country. We sort of knew some things, but we had some misconceptions and inaccuracies. Things didn't really get connected until 1998.
We were trying to figure out who we were going to have as a guest for the retreat, and you suggested I call John, and John suggested I call Maligiaq. So, because he said he's a young kid, but he just won the Greenland Kayak Champions as best overall athlete, and so that's when we brought him into the picture.
It took a lot of phone calls to Greenland, and Robin and various people roll with that. He may try that a little bit later, but there's a little bit of a language barrier here. We'll start out with some of the maneuvers they do in the championship.
But the first time that we saw him in the pool and saw him do the ropes at the beach, everyone was just absolutely mesmerized watching him and watching the performance. his energy level, and just he was doing something that we had never seen before. And then he just saw these people staring at him, and he was young, and he just took off with it. He loved the spotlight.
6 men run, so I...
The rope's going on. The rope's going around it.
So and break my back and bottom.
Oh.
Break my bottom. So I...
Well, when you're doing...
so hard. Oh, great.
And I wanted to say that we've all messed around in this pool for a lot of years, and this morning to see Maligiaq in the pool in a authentic sealskin boat was a thrill that we thought we'd never see, and that was a real honor for us.
And then when Maligiaq left and went back and reported to everybody in Greenland about what enthusiasts we were, they didn't believe him. They just couldn't comprehend that this had taken off so much.
We are very, very pleased to somebody from foreigner more and more interesting about Greenland kayaking.
I know I always had to reinforce that this is not a symposium, it's not commercial, you're not going to come here to buy boats and buy gear. Right. And Cindy and I were always on the same page as far as that went, that it was not to be commercial, that there wasn't to be items for sale, and we didn't want big signs and banners, that this was really a retreat, right, that you could come, and if you wanted to look at things, you could try somebody else's gear. And I kept saying to you, I think we're ready to incorporate more Greenland, and I think we're ready to go all Greenland. So one year at the end of the retreat, I was standing in front of the dining hall, and this one gentleman, and to this day I don't remember his name, but he got out of his car and he came over and he shook my hand and he said, I'm a Euroblade paddler, and he said, as far as I was concerned, this was a waste of my time and money, and there just wasn't enough here for Euroblade paddling. And he said, and if you want to learn how to run a retreat, he said, you call me next year in advance and I'll be happy to set you up with what you need as far as instructions for Euroblade. And I said, thank you very much. And he started to drive out, and I was like, next year's all Greenland. That's it. And I saw where people's interest was, and I saw where mine was, and I thought, even if I have to eat the difference, I'll pay for the difference to make this an all Greenland event. From then it took on a life of its own, and I think people felt more secure that this is what it was evolving into. So Cindy did 8 years, and then I did 8 years, and so we've seen a lot of people come and go, and a lot of new instructors, and now Ed Zakowski's taken it over and taken it to a new level.
Let's hear it for our kitchen staff. I give it a 9.5. There's a 10.
I like it. I'm very, very pleased.
In 2000, Kayak USA was approached, or the people that would form Kayak USA, rather, were approached by Qajaq Beck, who was the president of Qajaq, and we were asked if we'd be interested in forming a club that would keep Qajaq and Greenland as its center. We were very interested, and a year later, Kayak USA was formed.
I hope if they come more to Greenland for competing.
Our daughter is pretty hot to go to the Greenland Games, and so she's talked about 2008 or 2009 for wanting to compete in the Greenland Games. And when we were coming to this event and we told her that Kamp the head judge was here, she wanted to make sure that we put in a good word for her and let him know that she was coming.
The first one ever championship was kept in my hometown, Asiat, in 87.
The competition is divided into 8 different events. There are several races, there's rolling, harpoon throwing, and ropes. The age groups, there's 9 different categories. The 7 to 9-year-old kids, then it goes all the way up to the over 60 adults. The women and girls compete separately from the men and boys. The foreigners are scored separately from the Greenlanders. And in each of these different categories, there's a first, second, and third place determined. So you've got so many different little sections there. By the end, it's pretty hard not to be a winner in something. But just when you think you've got it all figured out, they change the rules.
For anybody who goes to Greenland, they need to expect to have a wonderful experience. But what you need to expect is that things will fold and unfold on their own time. So go as a guest, go knowing that you're not going to the Olympics, but you're going to a family gathering and an athletic event, and go and just simply enjoy the experience.
So we feel always so big family, big family.
You don't know exactly what you're going to get, but you know you're going to have a gathering of kayakers, you're going to fit into it somehow, and you're going to have a great time. So go and enjoy it.
Weather report Thursday, July 6th for Sisimiut today. Rainy and cloudy. Maximum day temperatures around 10 degrees Celsius. Minimum night temperatures around 4 degrees Celsius.
Maligiaq Padilla.
Really big kayak hunters. It's been always quiet about themselves, what they do, how hard you have been. Say nothing.
It's very important that everyone who comes here feels a deep respect for Greenlandic way of life.
Oh, sweet.
Du er til som nattop. Du sier til 106. Versi piani testimat i angusto al sessimo i mato.
What's your name?
Jens Jakob.
Is this the first year that you competed in the competition? How old are you? 11 years old. Tell me your name. Anas. What's the hardest move that you know how to do? Kislu.
Can you do the ropes?
No.
Ilas, Piero, I start to now, Marbuji. Alright, I start to put. Nakatinap. Paslusinap. Kingofik Parsasu. Makfasasu. Pagasumisu. Siukut pasotisu, masikut. Kingumut naatisu. Ariamisu. Kingup apumatiut. Siukut tunusumisu. Kingukut tunusumisu. Bajit kasuat tuamisu isuin namik. Kipero sinak bajit amoksuinak. Masikut alat jinak. Isafikut alat jinak. Tasit parsatisuit pajakarsuni masikut. Kanap atajut ipilarsu. Isilak kasawik. Pasok chisu asyakanak. Sisikun chilo ane. Up. Nakfasasu asyakanak. Sisikun chilo ane. Kisisuit. Awatak isafiu takanut. Norsamik masikut. Norsamik kingukut. Norsamik nakfasasu. Asamik masikut. Asamik kingukut. Asamik nakfasasu. Asak baqisu.
Maligiaq sportiinissip arsaara tigullugu assak peqillu kingukkut assak peqillu nerfallaallu sportiinissip arsaara tigullugu uyaqqamik tiummisarluni maligiaq uyaqqamik tiummisarluni kingukkut uyaqqamik tiummisarluni nerfallaallu ikusaannarmik niaqoq pukusuk patillu tallippaarlatilluit timaannarmik misilaqqissavik pusilluni paarnaq nusutsinneq kingunaani iluarisamut up up amma
Did you hear about Maligiaq?
No.
He's hurt. I don't think he'll be able to compete.
Okay.
He was in a boat, went out like a few days ago, and
Yeah.
it crashed on rocks.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's in the hospital. So.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it severe or
I don't
what?
think so. Well, I don't, they say he didn't break anything, but he just got hurt. You know, so.
I started up a shit. Ready to start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
When Maligiaq got hurt, it was like we all got hurt.
You feel always so big family, big family.
He almost certainly would have been getting his 7th title as Kayak Man of the Year if it hadn't been for the motorboat accident just a day before the competition started.
Who's the best in your kayak symposiums?
Kinapik ko na pa. Kaya sisimiyon. Maligiq.
Yeah, but I don't know what happened his back. He wanna be with racing again this time, but I said no. I wanna see news from doctor. He may. After our role, somebody sick or somebody hurt, may not competition.
Yeah, not safety.
No, if he suddenly hurt again, his back may be broken.
Yeah.
So we don't like it.
Verschil op hoor. Af in de keuken. Yes.
унериарниссақ аёртакусоорнерпааса тааманик кисса массаккут пиккорусорпассуарарпоқ пингаартумиллу меэққат сиуниссақарлуарпут таассуминга тимерсууммик ингерлатсиниссаминну улиммерсуаққарпугут аасианни 1987 таамали унаммиссутит игиттуиннангугаллуарпут кисианни ааллаққаатааппут тааманиккут унаммерсуарнэрмут малиттериассарингилавут
First time when they started on the ropes, they thought the only thing it works was only the low ropes. But since that they have been seeing it, that it's also on the high ropes that everything counts. When you make now we have good, how do you call it, some kids that has a big future on that will be the kids. They are by joking to show all the world how good it is.
The kayak woman and the man of the year will get prizes.
Janus Pamiot Mia foi Tao number 2 Jakob Davidsen Det kommer 18 point. Tao ukiar 2006 unammersoorna meqaartussammanngorpoq Christian D. Josefsen nu tässä aappaasiullernerminerspissat ugualu kigullilunniunneqartut tässä pukaalin ingersaartut
Thank you for riding. No problem.
Whenever I'm
getting better. I'm going to work on the building houses.
How long do you think? 2 weeks?
I don't know. I hope not too long.
Yeah.
That time when I left Sicily in 98, there's no road, airplane.
Yeah.
There's only helicopter. When I come back in 99, there are already road and life is
changed.
Yeah.
Well, for all the people in America, we want to thank you for all that you've done for kayaking. If you didn't come in 1998, most of us wouldn't even know about this and be doing it. That's for sure.
As a young he's done all this.
Yes.
And see you.
Sorry, look.
See you.
Kayak USA is a chapter of Qajaq Katufiat. And in Greenlandic, Qajaq Katufiat means the Kayaks Club. It's a collection of 25 clubs in Greenland. There's actually different kayak clubs that are forming around the world. There's Kayak Japan, there's Kayak New Zealand, and some others. And recently we had Kamp Absalonsen, who's the chief competition judge, here at Delmarva for an event. And he said Qajaq Katufiat is very interested to see more foreign or external kayak clubs affiliated with Qajaq Katufiat. So that's an exciting development that we hope to see in the future.
In Greenland, when Greg and Dubside coming to Greenland, and Sierra and Turner, I know many of them surprised how good they are to rowing.
Ask him if he would like to someday come to America and show the rope moves that he can do.
Arlane, Amerikari aqutissagaruarivin. Angissagaruarpi. Takititjartert. Assunariaqattami. Yeah, he will.
The one that really got me was she's never done the bowling ball. Really? She's just like, okay, I'll do it. She's just so comfortable underwater that it's like, you know.
Yeah, you can really tell.
Yeah, so she's definitely put a couple of weeks of practice into it.
So I think there's been a lot of really encouraging talk about people's travel to Greenland, and she's
gotten a greater exposure to it from, you know, just from the different guests that we've had at different symposiums, the different films that we've seen, slideshows and things like that from different people's trips, where, I mean, I would have never expected, you know, 4 or 5 years ago that she would ever say, ooh, hey, one day I want to compete in the Greenland Games.
And she is in 6th grade, so she's now studying earth science, and she's concerned about the global change, and she said, Mom, I want to get there before it all melts.